Do you have a goal at the moment that involves dieting?
I think with me, I have a goal with dieting that I suppose I have a particular weight in mind. I think competing in sports and general life has given me the option to be at different weights. So I kind of know how I am at certain weights. It's less of a case of happy or not happy for me. It was more a case of, at the time, being heavier in a particular sport. It was good, and now sports have changed. That weight is no longer beneficial for me. So
just to clarify, the two sports have been powerlifting, for which it was a benefit to be a heavier weight for your strength.
Yeah.
And now that your focus has changed, you are concentrating more on functional fitness and running,
I mean powerlifting movements or compound movements are always the sort of bread and butter of my training, and will probably forever be that. But I'm enjoying a lot more running at the moment, and running at my body weight is, although okay, you know that there's untapped better performance by simply just dropping some weight.
And we know that's the case for you, because you have been lighter and you have found it easier. So it is not a rhetorical question, it is just the plain comparison of how now you are a little bit heavier than when you have been more competitive.
It's significant. It's ridiculous how much better it is being even just a few kilos lighter, especially when it comes to running, but also lots of other things. But yeah, in my case, I was 10 kilos lighter, and I've at the same effort, it's my times were significantly better. Recovery was better. Generally, day to day feels better. So with that being my goal and wanting to better my performance, it's an obvious no-brainer that dropping some weight is probably the number one performance increase that I could do.
I guess that's the thing with dieting, that often I think it is assumed that it is for an aesthetic goal, and I'm not gonna lie, like I do enjoy the way I look more when I'm slightly lighter, but the performance benefit is definitely a massive reason for pushing a bit of weight loss if our sports require it.
Well, it's tangible, isn't it? So you've got lots of data. I've got lots of, Strava is brilliant for throwing data at you, and I can look at all my stats when I was at a particular body weight, and all my stats at a higher body weight, and it's very noticeable. And even interestingly, for instance, last year I was 10 kilos lighter, and this year I've done a significant amount of more miles in a year than I did last year, but I haven't been able to come close to my pacing, my times, the lower heart rate during certain easier runs, purely because I was lighter. So I put in so much more effort this year in the other areas, except being a lighter body weight, and haven't even come close to those performance stats. And yeah, it's nice to, even with, like I said, recovery, you just feel better.
Yeah. Although I will say that when it comes to fueling, it's no secret, I think, that a lot of runners or people getting into running tend to put on weight at the beginning, just because it makes you so freaking hungry. And if you do want to optimize your fueling for the running and during the runs as well, especially we are talking about longer distances, we have doubled in trail running a little bit, and that is something that is just time consuming. So for every single run you're expected to be out there for hours, so it's not only that you have to fuel appropriately in the lead up to the run, just so that your training gets progressively better so that you are ready for the day, you have to fuel right before the race and during the race as well. And we know that those have to be simple carbohydrates, which are not as easy to consume during the run, but fairly easy to consume before and after the run, and they can have a significant impact on our overall body weight, therefore kind of resulting in an overall heavier weight through the training period, which doesn't necessarily mean that the actual race gets compromised due to the higher body weight. It can just mean that we have an unexpected weight gain happening throughout the training period.
Yeah, I mean, you remember when you fueled me for Athex, and it was, I mean, the amount of carbohydrates needed was, I mean, I think you double checked your numbers a few times because
it was just ridiculous. Obviously, being a female and a slightly smaller size than you, those are numbers that I never thought I will have to assign to someone for like the amount of carbohydrates and what it translates to in the actual food.
Yeah, and although again, like my weight sort of bumped a couple of kilos pre competition, it was when fueled appropriately, it feels like you have endless amounts of energy. It was it was very, very noticeable, and recovery actually, because it was an event that was the same event we did a few months ago, and my recovery after felt much longer, whereas repeating the exact same event but with a more focused nutrition plan, it wasn't just the event that felt better, it was the recovery after. I was able to just get back in the gym much quicker.
So just to circle back to our topic of dieting, obviously we have mentioned that at the back end of preparing for some running races throughout 2025, we have both put on a bit of extra weight that we wanted to get rid of, both for just general well-being and just feeling better in our bodies, and for a competitive advantage hopefully in the future and the new year. So how did you find it? Have you tried dieting? What was your experience? Obviously, I know your answer to this question. We have both can I say that we pretty much started dieting at a similar time, or we have kind of considered going on a diet at a similar time?
Sure.
What happened? What is your experience?
So I suppose if I sort of talk about what most people probably think about, which is the challenges. So with me, training was going well. Life was pretty busy at the time. So the time for dieting at that point wasn't probably the best. So mentally knew that, and was planning on dieting. Starting a couple of months before Christmas as an appropriate time, just because life would have settled down, a few things would have been ticked off the list as such, so mentally had the space for it. I got that horrible illness.
That we all got.
That was awful. And it completely knocked my training, so was quite unwell. Was sort of out of sorts for about a week, I suppose. At the time, I wasn't feeling nauseous or anything. Didn't have any tummy problems, and I thought, well, while I can't do anything, I might as well sort of massively reduce my calories. So I kind of used it as a way to sort of kickstart the diet, I suppose. But unfortunately, it was like a respiratory thing, and it completely knocked me on my arse for training. And I really, really struggled to train weeks and weeks after that. I was doing it, but there was sort of nothing left in the tank, and
I'm sure a lot of people can relate to.
it was horrible, and especially with running and respiratory stuff, it was very, very noticeable. And when you're, with all the best will in the world of trying to train, and then every time you go out running or lifting, it just feels horrible. It's just not the most motivating thing to do, but knowing that it was just a case of something that had to pass. And then, I presume a lot of people, sort of my training and my diet kind of come part and parcel together. So if my training's not going too well, usually my diet tends to falter a little bit, and vice versa. So I really tried to push, and I was struggling with my training, and I thought, well, as long as my training's going well, usually most things in my life tend to go well. So I pushed my training in the gym a little bit more, and naturally just lifting weights, I will put on some weight.
What do you think is that?
A few things really. Obviously sort of I'm taking on a lot more water. Maybe it pushes my food, but like I said, it's probably more so, although my diet tends to becomes to look more healthy, my portion size will probably naturally come up a little bit. As you said, with the running, it's sort of, you feel very, very hungry all the time. But it's more that sort of that fatigue after training, and it comes to the evenings, and all of a sudden your portion sizes start to come up. But then you start to feel better, and then the running starts kick-starting. And I kind of knew just from history repeating itself that once the running and the training starts to happen, that things tend to fall in place. So I wasn't worried too much.
It's interesting what you say about training, because I find that, yes, running absolutely, it does make me hungry, but with weight training, I don't really notice a massive difference, like even if I'm pushing my sessions quite hard. I will say though, maybe my weight training is a little bit more bodybuilding style. I do feel like I have a good training session when I do those like resistance sessions in the gym, but it definitely is much easier to control my food intake, because it just doesn't make me as hungry. Like, I know I can go into the gym even if I'm just after a coffee and have a decent enough session, but as soon as it comes to running or like a high intensity training session, it's not gonna happen. Or like I can put in like twice as much energy as I would normally do without the food there. It just feels miserable, and then that kind of decides the fate of the session, because I'm just not gonna push as much. So it definitely does come down in my case to the type of the training. And same as well with like activity, like if I'm going running to increase my cardio, that makes me a lot hungrier than if I just increase my step count and just go on walks. That is a lot easier for me personally to manage my hunger.
I wouldn't say it's noticeable. I think with running, because I know how much it affects my running if I've overeaten or I've undereaten, and it makes such a big difference. I have to keep my eye on it so much more than with the weight training, because you can go into a weight session a little bit bloated, a little bit overfed, even a little bit underfed or something, and you can just eat a banana. Like, although yes, 100%, if you focused on your nutrition, like, your weight sessions would be way better, but it's not as immediately noticeable with running. So when my running's going really well, I tend to want to hold on to that, so I will focus way more on my nutrition, because all it takes is an overindulgence one night, and my next run's going to be shit, and then I'll get annoyed, and it just rolls on and rolls on and rolls on. So,
and then also your recovery is a bit shit, because even though the running feels horrible and much harder than it should be, you also don't recover from it. So it's a double whammy. So you want to go out again for a better run, but you don't really want to go out because you're not as motivated, because your previous run has been horrible, plus your body just feels depleted and just generally not ready. So it doesn't really help with a continuous progressive
and
training.
If you're putting on weight, like, it's I don't really have to put any effort into gaining weight. But if you're putting on weight, usually you get rewarded in the gym if you're lifting heavy weights. So you get that sort of motivation of, I've put an extra 10 kilos on my squat, I've done this. And really, you just have to eat a lot of food. Like, you don't have to put much thought into it, as long as your food's generally balanced and healthy. And eating big portions is like second nature.
So getting back to the diet, then the big portions. So we have kind of been doing our own thing at the same time. So what was your experience?
very up and down. I've kind of got to the point now when I feel my weight has stabilised at where it is, and I'm able to, and training's going well, both running and in the gym, so I'm able to put a bit more attention into actually dropping weight. It has been a struggle. I think most of the time, just being busy in the day with work, I think a lot of people struggle with this, is eating enough during the day so that you're not ravenous in the evening, and I've sort of struggled with that. But the problem is the things are feeling pretty good now, and then we're knocking on the door of Christmas, which is a natural point where
couple more weeks.
I think if you can maintain your weight through Christmas, you're doing pretty well. So historically I tend to be pretty good over Christmas. I don't really tend to overeat, but maybe food choices tend to change slightly. But I'm okay with that. I still train through Christmas, and I'm going to be a January 1st New Year's. I am going to join that camp, so don't worry. Yeah.
Yes, we all know that one. Is it going to be the 5th? That's the Monday, the first full week of January. Is it when the diet starts?
Maybe. I don't know. It seems like a natural. I mean, we all sort of laugh and joke about sort of January gym people, January dieters and stuff. But it makes perfect sense. We've got this period of indulgence that happens, and then it's like we've got long months ahead of us, and not a lot goes on. So what else are you going to do? You're going to sort of feel a bit guilty about what you've done, and you're just going to knuckle down. And how long you do, some people do break through and they end up doing really well, and it's a sort of new chapter in their life, and some don't. Maybe they get it next year, but I'll be with them. Yeah.
I think it's quite important that you do have a strong enough goal for which you are willing to work hard in terms of starting a diet. Because I do agree that there are wrong times in our lives when we shouldn't diet. It just puts extra pressure on ourselves for probably no real reason, because a lot of people will not be successful if they try to juggle everything at the same time. And then obviously if the diet doesn't have a strong enough reason, it just to make you feel a little bit better, or for your clothes to fit a little bit better, it genuinely isn't a strong enough reason in a lot of cases when there's a lot of other things going on. So I think it can be quite nice when you have a fresh start. And as you say, it doesn't mean that you can just have a free-for-all in the entire month of December and then just start from an even worse position as where you have been at the beginning of the month. But you can still just have a nice clean slate to start in January.